Good morning, 3/27/2017. People, I'd love to know whose brainchild that it was to put someone whose mother called a deviant, not in so many words, I'm paraphrasing here, right next to a preschool. Right next to the preschool. And better yet, you know how I feel about how she imagined the whole thing? Possibly because I was checking out the angles, different, how could this happen? With the hallucinations caused by the overload of EMF. Because remember, I'd done a video on this before. At the commune, there were hardly any towers, okay? Maybe, let's say for safety that there was one, all right? She went to Sedalia, or came to live with us when we lived in Sedalia, and the tower search showed 110. So, okay, I was looking at maybe that had something to do with it, because a small fraction of their commune things was based on the electricity, how it'll take away from God, how to say it. Well, it was just not a good thing. So then that court case with their pastor and the ankle bracelet for surveillance, because then he was called an offender by some of the girls up there. But that still doesn't excuse the very acts of the place. I mean, well, let me say it this way. It doesn't excuse the authorities who didn't live there having been told and called, and people wanting that place shut down by other locals and family members that lived there as residents at the commune's, family outside of it, who could see from the outside looking in the stuff that was going on there that shouldn't be, you see? That doesn't excuse the fact that it was allowed to continue, and them allowed to purchase even more land, and from there just under 300 acres or so when it first started, or was, just getting going, to over 1,200. Because here's how they do that. They get these members, they screen them, they do some sort of application on their website, alright? They are either accepted or not, but part of the agreement is they give over a sizable portion of everything they have. Okay, so that goes to the main head, which is Livingston. Okay? They work and work and work. The website says 40 hours part of the time, 60 hours, like in the summer, a week, to get the harvest done or whatever other farm things they do, without pay. Their pay is to get to live there and get to eat unless they mess up and they get part of their food taken. They'll cut back part of their rations. And then the rules for that is on the website. Okay? There had been outrage about some of the things that someone learned that had been going on there. Like, one of the things I read was that their main one, Livingston, and I don't care what he wants to be known as at this point, whether it's leader or brethren, or, I don't care. But it was said that he had fathered a lot of kids up there. Okay? Well, part of my questioning is, the stepdaughter knew some of the stuff, well, probably a lot more than is on the internet. She knew stuff that was going on up there. Yet when she comes down to live with us, she's not telling it all. Or she would have been saying, that one, he makes babies with everybody. He does stuff with somebody all the time. He's a regular baby machine. It's kind of hard to unless you're around 13-year-olds, how they talk. Here I am, 56, and I hadn't been around a 13-year-old for a lot of years, but some of them have it together better than other ones. Some of them will come right out and say, he rapes those girls up there. He brainwashed them and then he raped them. While others, more like her, would say something like I already said, like, there's just no stopping him. He's just go, 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 like the Energizer Bunny, which she did say in her deposition. And I think part of the thing is people don't really believe that I got a hold of that case because of the nature of it being juvenile. Like, well, the state just would not do that. Well, yes, they did, and I've proven it. I've shown parts of it ever since I got it in 97. First one part and then the other. And they wanted me to shut down and wanted some of the other ones in Sedalia to shut down. They did. They got fiercely upset. But look, the state supersedes the county. The state gave me those files. I can kind of just imagine that female state defender at that point throwing her hands up and say, I don't give a diddly darn what you do with them. Whether you roll them up and smoke some marijuana in them or use them for toilet paper or put them on the internet. Make your point. Because they didn't let me have my say. My family, my mom and dad at that point had become staunch in their belief about how CPS or DFS was, even though for the first few years they contradicted me and said it's all in your head. Because then through dealing with them themselves, mostly my mom, though my dad pretty much took a side share in that, she found out. She found out exactly what kind of POS. And they weren't even on behalf of the child or on behalf of the well-being of the child. That wasn't it at all. And you know what they say? You're supposed to call out your demons. Well, mine are in a physical human form. And I've called them out. And they're still not dealt with accordingly. I've named them and named them. It's probably a lot of why I don't really have a real friend. Because my tactic, well, if you're going to do this, we're not going to have anything to do with you. Okay, fine. Be that way. I don't care. I mean, I care, but This is important to me. Well, it would be great if I would finally hit the right switch with any of my posts or videos. And they say, oh, that did it. That's the magic one. You said the magic words. And they'd call me and they'd say, come get John Myers. And I'd call Bradley and I'd say, guess what? They called me to come and get John Myers. We're going to go get your dad today. I hope the truck's empty. Let's get some gas. To save time, I'll drive up there instead of you all driving down here to get the truck and then have to drive back after a long drive because it's way over past St. Louis. That would be a great day. And we just kept hanging on and hanging on like something is the magic switch in all this thing, the magic button. Because like they used to tell us in 12-step meetings, with all this horse crap, there's bound to be a pony in here somewhere. Thanks for watching.